professionals, how you going? Karen Finnan here. So I have just spent 2 days at the Australian Telehealth Conference, and although there was some fabulous information shared, and I've shared some key take-homes in another video, what I wanted to share today was what was missing. What did I want to hear about that wasn't covered in the conference? So let's hear more about that. So there were 3 key things that I wanted to hear more about at this conference that I didn't quite get to. And I think we need to remember that the conference is really dominated by big organisations in the public sector, mainly hospitals rolling out telehealth systems, both in Australia and overseas. These were a lot of the case studies that we were given. So a few things from the private sector, where I would have liked to hear more information, for example, would have been around, say, pricing. So how are people pricing? How are people developing sustainable business models to fund telehealth systems in the private sector? Now, there was discussion of a shift more towards outcome-based funding rather than episodic funding, and I think that will be reflected in the private world as well. So we pay for access or for an outcome rather than just pay per consult, but there really wasn't the discussion of sustainable business models and pricing. Number 2, off the back of that, funding. So public system funding is very different to the private health insurance funding, and there was really no discussion of that at all. Obviously, in the private sector, the private health insurers acknowledging telehealth for rebate purposes is a real key for us, and there was no discussion about that at all, which was incredibly disappointing. It's holding us back. I always thought that what happens in the medical system then flows on to allied health. Well, it does in the public sector, but there's a big leap for that to then flow on to things being funded in the private sector. So that was a bit disappointing. And finally, regulatory frameworks. So obviously, these public funded systems are country specific, or state specific. So that's all very contained. Health practitioners are working within that normal scope of that, within that state or that country. But obviously in the private sector, there's more discussion of interjurisdictional consultations, the removal of borders. When you're talking about a cash pay system, patients should have choice where they are able to spend their money and where they are able to access care, and how the regulators dealing with the fact that there is demand for consultations to be happening across country borders and across state borders and that sort of thing. So really no discussion about that at all. I do want to finish with saying it was a fabulous conference and there were so many fabulous bits of information there. But I think it's important to reflect that these areas were underrepresented at the conference. I hope that's been interesting for you. I look forward to chatting to you next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.